Hey everybody, Hunter back again. We're at a milestone, part number 40 of the build tutorial. I thought maybe I'd get this done in about 50 parts, but it doesn't look like it. So just to let everybody know, I am uploading each video into a playlist on my channel. So if you can't catch all the parts when I put them up, because I know I'm doing them pretty quick, I'm doing them one after the other. As I get certain stages done, I'm recording the video and then I'm uploading while I'm working on the next stage. And all those are going into a playlist, so you can watch them at any time you want to. They will stay in that playlist if you want to refer back to them. A year from now, all those videos will be in there. You can watch them, start to finish. I'm trying to also title, put a description in on each video to kind of let people know what we're doing. There's some toward the beginning that I didn't do that on. I will go back and try to get a description on each video, each part of the series to let you know what we're doing in that part. So in part 40, we are going to install the seats into the model. And what I have done with these is these are a little bit different sheen than the other parts that we have on other, parts of the model. These have been coated down with a coat of Tamiya TS79 semi-gloss clear straight out of the can. Now, I know a lot of people just heard that and they went, wait a minute, you put acrylic down underneath of that. I have heard that you cannot mix lacquers with acrylic. You cannot spray a lacquer over top of an acrylic, and it has some truth to it. You have to be careful how much you put down. I have sprayed Tamiya bottle paints on an exterior of a body before, and the paint looked real good. Then I went in to do a clear coat, so I sprayed down TS13 from Tamiya straight out of the can, and come to find out, when you're trying to get that wet coat and that shiny look to it, it's too much and it displaced the acrylic underneath of it. So we did a very dry coat of the TS79 on these seats. And what I was trying to simulate was leather. And I had made mention a while back that I was going to do a video on how you make things look like suede or fabric, and how you make things look like vinyl or leather or things like that. A lot of what it is not necessarily the color that you spray on it. It is the overcoat that you put on it. Now, like in these seats, I did these with a semi-gloss black. You will notice a big difference between the semi-gloss black and what is flat, like at a show or whatever, or right in front of you. I don't think you'll pick it up on camera as much, but when you're looking at it with the naked eye, up close, you will see the difference in it. So we've got the semi-gloss clear on the seats. We're going to go ahead and snap them off of our pieces that the piece of parts tree that we glued to them. And these seats do have a little lineup pin underneath of them right there. And you have one that's offset to the right, one that's offset to the left. So we're doing the one which is actually the passenger side now. And all we're going to do with this is we're going to take a little bit of this thicker Tamiya glue. And there's a raised section on the floor pan here that the seat glues to. So what we're going to do is take this thicker glue, and we're going to put a little bead of it on the inside vertical surface of the bottom of this seat. And what that's going to do is, when we're not putting it on the bottom edge of the seat, what that'll do is when we set this down into place, it would actually adhere to the vertical side of this piece that they put on the floor, the little balls to mount it in. And that way we don't get any glue squeezing out and getting all over our flocking or anything like that. You won't see a glue joint at all, because the glue joint is actually hidden up underneath of the seat itself. So we're going to set that into position. We got it in there. That one looks good. We're going to move on to the driver's side now. We're going to do the same technique on it. Just going to put a little bit of glue on the vertical part of the inside of the seat. And you notice I'm not using the extra thin on this. I want a glue that's going to stay in place. It's got a good cling to it. And pretty much where you put it with this brush is where it stays. That's what I'm shooting for. and we're good to go. So now we've got that one in. We're going to go ahead and set that seat into place. Line it up on the little notch that's under the seat, or the little pin that's under the seat, and then there's a notch in the piece on the floor pan that you line all that up into. Now we have the seats set into place. What I do is turn it forward and just make sure that the seats are going straight ahead, because a lot of times these bosses aren't exactly centered. That looks pretty good there. Yep, we're looking pretty good as far as the seats. All right, let me hold this up here. We'll get a view of the seats in place. Come on, camera, zoom in on that. There we go. That's the seat sitting in there. And there is a different sheen on the seats than it is on that center console. And that's what we're looking for. We're kind of breaking things up and changing the sheens and the tones of stuff a little bit to not make it all look monochromatic, I guess you could say. Even though we're using the same colors, we're trying to change up the tones and how, one's got a little bit of light reflectivity to it and another part doesn't. We'll even go into what I call a very true flat, which is an out of scale flat, as the military guys would say. And that really helps, add some interest to the model also. So we've got that step done. Now what we're going to do is go in with a little bit of the model wash from Vallejo. This is number 513. This is the brown. And we're going to get our little piece of plastic out here. We'll set that over here. And we're going to take a little bit of this and we're going to squeeze it out onto the plastic. And like I say, this is just a brown and it's very thinned out. And what we're going to do is we're going to highlight some of the recesses and stuff in the seat with this little bit darker color. And I'm going to go in with a very fine brush. This is, again, the 10-0 brush. And we are going to do some highlighting on the seats. So you just want to dip your brush into your Vallejo wash. And we're going to come in right on the creases of the seats. And we're going to lightly let this flow. Around the recesses. And what that will do is give us a little bit of a shadow and take that monochromatic look away from the seats when it's dry. And don't freak out if it doesn't look the way you want it to right off the bat, because when you're first putting it on, it's going to look a little stark, just like when we did it back on the wood graining technique. Don't worry about that. It'll all blend in. And since we have the semi-gloss clear down on these seats, we can actually go back in with this being water-based, and we can wet a toothpick or a Q-tip, and we can go through and clean up any excess that we don't want on the seats. So we're trying to follow all of the lines that are there and get the product to flow down in them, just to add a little interest to it. And like I say, it will look a little streaky at this point. Don't worry about that. You're going to let it dry and then make a decision from that point whether it's something that you like. If you don't really like the tone of it, you can go back in and take some of it off. Or if you rub with a little bit more pressure, you can take the majority of it off. And we've got a little bit to go down through this line right here. And like I said, when this is done, it'll be very, very subtle. It's not something that's kind of in your face. As far as a detail item, it's going to be very, very subtle. I've seen guys go in and simulate piping and stuff on the seats, and it's too stark. It's grossly out of scale. Doing this simple panel line wash like this is basically what I call it. It gives you a very nice toned down, very subtle effect. But then again, that's not for everybody. I like stuff on my models to be stuff like this to be very subtle. Some people want things in your face and bold, and that's perfectly fine if that's what kind of look you're shooting for. I like everything to flow together and look the part, and that's what I think these products do very well. And sometimes on this, you may have to let this dry and then go back over it again to really get the look that you're shooting for. So remember that. Not all the time will you get this all in one pass where it looks exactly the way you want it to look. It may take a couple of times because this is so thinned out that it's going to take a little bit to build it up. So we're going to hold this up here now. Let me get the cloth underneath of it again, and I'll show you just how stark it is when you first put it on. There you can see it. You can see the individual lines in that. Very stark. But when we're done and we tone everything down, that will not look like that. So that's as far as installing the seats. That's all we're going to do in this episode. We're going to do a treatment similar to that on the side panels that we have, and then we're going to do a little bit of detail work around the switches and all that. And then we will be doing a bunch more work on the dash assembly itself. The next video, I'm going to be over at the spray booth. I'm going to spray the TS79 semi-gloss clear across this dash, just to let everybody know that you can do it. I'm going to show you the procedure to spraying it where you don't have an issue spraying it over top of acrylics. But this is as we sprayed it. It's been sitting here in the foam ever since we sprayed it on video. And then we're going to go back in with the semi-gloss clear after that dries, and we're going to do a little bit more highlighting the switches and stuff like that, and going in and do the instrument panel in there, a little bit of work on the steering wheel. So we got a lot of fun stuff coming up. Stay tuned for that. Like always, I thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you later. Bye bye.